Sometimes, it's the quiet moments in a game that stay with you the longest. A still forest before dawn, a distant melody on the wind, or just the way a story slowly unfolds when no one's rushing you forward. I've been thinking about that lately. About the games that don't just impress but feel whole, the kind you finish and quietly whisper, yeah, that was something special. So today, I wanted to gently share a few of those with you. Just a soft walk through 28 perfect 10-10 single-player games you really shouldn't miss. No ranking, no loud lists, just the kinds of games that stay close long after the credits roll. If you're in the mood to sit back and spend a little time remembering why we fall in love with games in the first place, I'd love to have you along. Sometimes when you ride out into the hills just as the sun begins to rise, everything goes quiet. The wind brushes through the tall grass, a few birds stir in the distance, and the trail ahead feels like it belongs only to you. That's the kind of moment I keep coming back to. Not because it's big or dramatic, but because it feels alive in a way few things do. I really want to show you something that captures that feeling. A world that's wide and unhurried, where every dirt path, every campfire, every faraway train whistle seems to carry a story of its own. You might notice the way the snow crunches differently under your boots when you've been walking too long, or how the horse is slow when the rain sets in. There's a quiet honesty to it all, a feeling like you've stepped into something real, not because someone told you it was, but because it just is. The people you meet, the choices you make, the places you rest, they all start to matter, not in a forced or gamified way, but gently. Like memories unfolding as you move through them. It's the kind of experience that doesn't ask much from you, just time and attention. And if you give it that, it gives something quiet and lasting in return. There's a certain kind of stillness that comes just after a storm, when the wind settles, the sky softens, and the earth feels heavy with memory. That's the feeling I think of when I remember this world. I really want to show you something that lingers like that. A place where the roads are muddy from last night's rain, where the trees whisper stories older than you can name, and where every quiet village seems to carry its own quiet sorrow. You might have missed this one if you were only looking for action, but beneath the swords and spells, there's something deeply human here. It's in the way strangers pause when you pass, or how an old innkeeper leans into the candlelight to share something they haven't said in years. Every choice feels like it carries weight, not just because of what it changes, but because of how it makes you feel. There's beauty in the silence between battles, in the soft hum of wind through tall grass, in the creak of a wooden cart rolling past, in the distant cry of something you'll never quite see. It's not just about quests or creatures or kingdoms. It's about wandering through a place that feels worn, lived in, and quietly magical in all the ways that matter most. If you ever find yourself needing a story that doesn't rush you, that lets you wonder, and feel, this one caught me off guard, and I'm glad it did. There's something strangely peaceful about standing alone in a wide, open field, where the grass moves like waves and the sky feels impossibly far away. No music, no voices, just the wind, the earth beneath your feet, and a sense that something ancient is waiting in the distance. I really want to show you this world, not because it's easy to understand, but because it doesn't ask to be understood right away. You wonder, and slowly it begins to speak in its own quiet language. You might come across a crumbling statue half buried in moss, or a bridge that leads nowhere but feels like it once meant something. The solitude is deep, but not lonely. More like the kind of silence that invites reflection. Every hill you climb reveals something new, not always with answers, but with atmosphere. Mystery. Wait. There's no map telling you where to feel, only the land itself, quietly guiding you by the shape of the light or the echo of something distant and strange. What caught me off guard was how much emotion lives in the stillness, the way tension and beauty live side by side, and how even the smallest discoveries can feel personal. If you've ever needed a place to get a little lost, not to escape, but to feel grounded in something old and hauntingly beautiful, I think you'll understand why this one stayed with me. There's a quiet moment, snow falling, trees breathing in the cold, where a father and son stand at the edge of a forest, not speaking, just feeling the weight of what's ahead. I really want to show you this journey, not because it's full of battles or big moments, but because of the way it holds silence like it means something. The world is icy and ancient, filled with places that feel carved from stories older than memory. You'll notice how the light shifts through clouds over a frozen lake, or how the wind carries whispers in the trees, like the land itself remembers everything. And in between it all, there's something very human quietly unfolding, a relationship full of tension and tenderness, shaped by grief, strength, and learning how to trust. What caught me off guard wasn't the scale of it, but the stillness between the action, the way small gestures say more than words ever could. You might have missed this one if you were looking for noise, but if you sit with it slow and open, there's something honest here. Something that lingers long after the screen fades to black. There's something hauntingly quiet about walking through an abandoned music store, sunlight catching dust in the air, as an old acoustic guitar rests in the corner, untouched, but still full of memory. I really want to show you this story, not for the chaos that surrounds it, but for the stillness in between. The moments where grief hums beneath every footstep, and love clings tightly to whatever scraps are left behind. The world feels fragile here, overgrown with time, yet deeply alive in its silence. You might notice a broken photo frame lying face down on a dresser, or a child's drawing taped to a fridge, untouched by years of collapse. It's these quiet details that breathe so much humanity into the journey. Moments where you pause, not because you have to, but because something inside asks you to. What caught me off guard wasn't just how heavy everything felt, but how real the emotions were. Raw, uncomfortable, and sometimes wordless, like they lived beneath the surface. Here's something different. A story that doesn't try to make you feel safe, but invites you to feel deeply, even if it hurts, even if it lingers long after the screen fades out. There's a moment, just after a storm, when the sky softens, the wind quiets, and a single leaf drifts across an empty path lined with falling sakura. I really want to show you this one, because it's not just beautiful, it feels alive in a way that's hard to explain. You ride slowly through tall golden grass, and for a while there's no fighting, no noise, just the hush of nature breathing all around you, like the land itself is telling a story. You might have missed this one if you were only chasing action, because the deeper magic lives in the stillness, in the distant call of a bird leading you somewhere unexpected, or the way the wind carries you without a map, almost like memory guiding your steps. This one caught me off guard with how gentle it could be, how grief and honor can exist in the same quiet moment, standing alone beneath a falling sunset. The world doesn't ask you to rush through it, it asks you to notice it, to listen, to reflect, and that's what makes it worth returning to. Not just as a warrior, but as someone searching for something softer beneath the surface. There's something strange and beautiful about standing alone on a neon-lit rooftop in the middle of a city that never truly sleeps. I really want to show you this one, because in between the flashing lights and the noise, there's a kind of stillness here that most people overlook. You might have missed this one if you only looked at the surface, but once you slow down, you'll start noticing the way soft rain falls through electric haze, or how a single street musician plays to no one, completely lost in their own world. There's a moment late at night where the empty streets of Night City feel less like chaos and more like memory, like walking through a dream where every person you pass has a story you'll never hear. This one caught me off guard not because of what it promises, but because of what it quietly delivers. Moments of quiet wandering, gentle conversations in hidden corners, and the bittersweet feeling of a place that feels real, even when it's not. It's not about what you do. It's about how it all feels while you're doing it. The soft glow of distant windows, the low hum of distant voices, and the feeling that somewhere in all this noise, there's something deeply human waiting to be found. You might have missed this one if you were only looking for action, but there's something quietly haunting in the way Alan Wake 2 unfolds, like reading a dream that somehow knows you. I really want to show you this because the world here doesn't shout, it whispers. In the rustling of trees that feel almost alive, in the way the fog carries memories, and in how light isn't just a tool, it's a kind of fragile hope. It's strange. The deeper you go, the more it begins to feel like the story is watching you, not the other way around. One moment you're walking through a quiet forest under soft rain, and the next you're holding your breath, wondering if the silence means safety or something waiting just out of view. What caught me off guard was how personal everything starts to feel. Not because you're told what to feel, but because the spaces between the shadows give you time to feel it yourself. There's a loneliness here, yes, but it's the kind that makes you listen harder, like there's something important just beneath the surface, waiting to be understood. Every flashlight flicker, every half-remembered sentence, every echo in the dark, it lingers. Not loud, not obvious, just quietly unforgettable, like the kind of story that follows you long after it ends. You might have missed this one if you haven't sat still with a fantasy world in a while, the kind that doesn't rush you but slowly unfolds like an old story being told around a fire. Baldur's Gate 3 isn't just about quests or choices, it's about the small silences between decisions, the warmth of unexpected friendships, and the quiet weight of a path you shape one conversation at a time. I really want to show you this because the world feels so alive in ways you don't always notice at first, like the way a companion looks away when remembering something painful, or how a single campfire night can make you feel closer to people who don't even exist. There's something deeply peaceful about just walking through a forest here. Not because nothing's happening, but because the world trusts you to discover it at your own pace. This one caught me off guard with how gentle it could be, even in the middle of chaos, a kindness hidden in the way characters care about each other, or how your smallest decisions echo like ripples you can't quite predict. It's less about being powerful and more about being present, listening, choosing, wondering. And somehow, that makes every moment feel quietly magical, like finding a piece of yourself in a place you never expected. You might have missed this one, or maybe you remember it differently. A small village, quiet at first, where the wind carries something uneasy through the trees and every shadow seems to breathe just slightly. I really want to show you this because there's something oddly beautiful about how it feels to walk through that fear slowly, step by step, not as someone invincible, but as someone simply trying to make it through. The world here doesn't scream, it whispers, with flickering lanterns, creaking wooden floors, and that distant sound of something not quite right, waiting just beyond the next door. What caught me off guard is how much care lives in the details. The way your flashlight catches dust in the air, the quiet tension of deciding whether to run or stand your ground, or how even the silence feels heavy, like the place remembers everything. You're not racing through, you're surviving, observing, breathing slowly. And in all that stillness, there's an unexpected kind of connection, to fear, to memory, and to the strange comfort of being lost somewhere that both frightens and fascinates you. It doesn't try to overwhelm you, it lingers, and that's what makes every moment stay with you long after it's over. You might have dreamed of it once, walking through ancient stone corridors while the candles float gently above you, hearing the echo of your own footsteps mixing with soft whispers of magic, and wondering what it would feel like to finally belong in a world like that. I really want to show you this one because it doesn't rush to impress, it quietly unfolds. Like a memory you never lived but somehow still remember. From the rustle of your robe as you walk past a sleeping portrait, to the way the seasons shift slowly around the castle grounds, where autumn leaves swirl near the greenhouses and winter snow gathers softly on old rooftops. What caught me off guard is how much space there is to simply exist, to pause by a lake, feed a magical creature, or get lost in a quiet hallway lit by golden morning light. It's not about being the strongest or the fastest, it's about soaking in the wonder, the small joys that come from feeling like you're part of something timeless, something enchanted. And in those slower moments where the world feels both grand and gentle, it's easy to forget you're playing at all. It just feels like being somewhere you've always wanted to be. You might have missed this one. It doesn't try to grab your attention with noise or speed, but instead draws you in with silence, with long stretches of wind and rain and the soft crunch of boots against broken earth. I really want to show you this because there's something hauntingly peaceful about walking alone across a vast fractured world. carrying pieces of connection on your back, like you're slowly stitching something broken back together, not with force, but with patience. What caught me off guard is how still everything can be, and how that stillness makes small moments feel huge. Spotting a rainbow through the fog, hearing a song rise as the hills open in front of you, or leaving behind a rope or ladder, knowing someone else might find it and feel less alone. It's not a place filled with action, but with meaning, a quiet rhythm of movement, balance, and purpose that starts to feel meditative after a while. And somehow, even in a world that feels empty, you feel deeply connected, not just to the land, but to others you'll never meet, through simple acts of help and hope, like you're all walking through the same long journey, just on different paths, quietly holding the world together one step at a time. Here's something different. It starts not with a dramatic cutscene or heavy dialogue, but with a rhythm, a heartbeat tucked gently inside the world, like the whole place is quietly pulsing to some invisible song. What really caught me off guard is how alive everything feels, not loud or chaotic, but perfectly in sync. Like even the flicker of lights or the sway of a vending machine is part of the beat. And when you move, when you swing, when you jump, there's this soft, almost playful harmony guiding you. Like you're dancing through a dream you didn't expect to enjoy this much. I really want to show you this one because it reminds me that sometimes joy can be simple, like watching colors splash across rooftops, hearing a guitar riff swell as you time a perfect strike, or just pausing for a moment and letting the world bounce gently around you. It doesn't rush you or overwhelm you. It just offers a space where everything feels strangely hopeful, where even the smallest detail, a spinning fan, a cat tapping its paw in time, adds to this strange, shared performance you're quietly part of. And by the end, it's not just the rhythm that stays with you. It's the feeling that maybe life moves a little better when you slow down and listen to the beat underneath it all.
Well, that looks like all of them.
You might have missed this one, but there's something quietly haunting about walking through golden fields while the distant hum of tragedy lingers just out of sight. The world feels so tender and fragile, like even the light has learned to tread softly. What really stayed with me wasn't just the story or the setting, but the small, wordless moments between the chaos, the way Amisha gently squeezes Hugo's hand when he's scared, or how birds scatter in soft flurries when you pass through an abandoned village, as if the world itself is holding its breath. I really want to show you this because it doesn't try to overwhelm you. It invites you slowly into a place where love and fear exist side by side, where the quiet creak of a wooden door or the flicker of torchlight against stone can carry just as much weight as any battle. The air feels heavy with memory, and as you move through it, there's a kind of softness in the sadness, like the game is telling you, even in the darkest places. There's something worth protecting, something worth feeling deeply. And when it's over, you don't remember the violence or the spectacle. You remember the warmth of a sibling's voice, the stillness of a ruined chapel, and the way grief and hope can sometimes walk hand in hand. I really want to show you this one, because it has a kind of quiet magic hidden beneath all the stars and ruins. There's something deeply human about wandering through forgotten temples and wide-open galaxies while carrying the weight of a broken past, like you're not just surviving but slowly remembering who you are. The world feels massive but strangely intimate, with soft gusts of wind brushing over ancient stone and distant suns casting long shadows that stretch behind you like old memories. And the way Cal pauses, sometimes just to breathe, or look out across a canyon, it makes you stop too, like the game is whispering that it's okay to slow down, to feel something in the stillness. You might have missed this one if you were only looking for action, but what stands out here are the quiet friendships, the unspoken trust between a man and his crew, and the little moments that bloom in between all the battles. Watching a droid tilt its head at a wild creature, or standing alone under a night sky that somehow feels heavier than the story itself. It's not just about fighting back, it's about holding on to kindness, to memory, to the soft flicker of hope that somehow survives even in the darkest corners of the galaxy.
You want to handle this?
You might have missed this one if you've only ever rushed through fantasy worlds, because there's something deeply quiet and almost sacred about the way the snow falls in the mountains of Skyrim. Not dramatic, not loud, just soft and endless, like it's been falling for 1,000 years. There's a stillness here that feels ancient, where every ruined tower, frozen lake, and whispering cave seems to carry the memory of someone long forgotten. And the world doesn't beg for your attention. It just exists, calmly waiting to be found. I remember standing alone at dawn on the edge of a cliff, watching the mist roll through pine trees below, while the distant call of a dragon echoed across the valley. And it didn't feel like a game at all. It felt like I'd stumbled into someone else's story and was quietly allowed to walk around inside it. The smallest things stay with you. The sound of boots crunching through frost, the soft creak of wooden doors in sleepy towns, the warmth of a fire after walking through a blizzard. And it's in those moments, not the battles or quests, that Skyrim leaves a mark. It's the kind of place where you can lose hours just wandering without purpose. Not because you have to, but because it feels right. Like the world is gently telling you, slow down, take your time, you're welcome here. Here's something different. The first time I looked up and saw the city of Columbia floating quietly above the clouds, it felt less like a moment in a game and more like a dream you don't want to wake up from. The air is golden and slow, and there's this haunting calmness to it all, like the world is smiling at you while hiding something just out of view. Walking through sunlit streets where music drifts lazily from gramophones and balloons sway gently over cobbled sidewalks, you start to notice how the beauty of everything feels just a little too perfect. And that's when it pulls you in, not with action, but with a strange emotional weight that settles quietly behind your thoughts. I really want to show you this not for its battles or powers, but for the way it plays with time and memory, with trust and silence, and especially for how it makes you feel when you realize that Elizabeth, the girl you're traveling with, isn't just part of the story, she is the story, and her presence shifts everything, softening the violence and sharpening the loneliness. You begin to notice little things. The way light filters through stained glass, how birds flutter through broken rooftops, how Elizabeth tosses coins your way without a word, and how sometimes she just stops to look at the world like it's hers to understand. It's not a place you rush through. It's a place you absorb, slowly and quietly. And when it's over, it leaves you with that strange, beautiful ache that comes from visiting a place that doesn't exist anymore, but somehow still lives in your head. You might have missed this one if you've only ever heard how hard it is, but there's something quietly beautiful hidden beneath the ashes of Dark Souls. A world that doesn't tell you what it means, but lets you feel it slowly, through silence, through forgotten ruins, and through the soft crunch of footsteps echoing in lonely places. The first time I stood beneath those towering empty archways of Lordran, it felt like stepping into a memory that didn't belong to me, where light falls gently through broken ceilings and old statues lean in shadow, telling stories without a single word. I really want to show you how peaceful it can be when you're just walking through the undead burg with no one around, watching the wind stir the banners and the dust fall quietly in the sunlight. Because despite the darkness, there's a deep calm here, like the world itself has already grieved and now just waits, tired but patient for someone to understand it. Every enemy feels like part of the landscape, not placed there to stop you, but to test something in you, something soft, something lonely, something stubborn that doesn't want to give up even when everything feels lost. And the moments in between the fights, sitting by a flickering bonfire with nothing but silence around you, those are the ones that stay with me the most, because Dark Souls doesn't just challenge your hands, it slowly teaches your heart how to move forward, even when you don't know why. And in that strange, quiet way, it becomes something you carry with you, long after you've left its world behind. You might have missed this one if you only ever saw the chaos, but sometimes late at night in Los Santos something unexpected happens. The city feels still, almost gentle, like it's waiting for you to notice it beyond the noise. There was this one quiet moment where I drove up the winding hills just to watch the skyline glow, and the way the lights shimmered across the valley felt more like a painting than a game. The radio low, the road empty, and the wind moving through palm trees like a memory from a dream you can't quite place. I really want to show you how peaceful it feels to walk along Vespucci Beach as the sun sets, not chasing anything, just letting the world breathe around you, the soft sound of waves, the quiet chatter of strangers, the small life details that aren't part of a mission, but still feel alive, like they were made just to be noticed when you slow down. Even the messier parts, the alleys, the back streets, the random corners of the city, all carry their own quiet character. Like every street has its own heartbeat if you take the time to listen. It caught me off guard how much emotion I felt in such an unpredictable place, where one moment you're laughing at something absurd and the next you're sitting still in traffic watching the sun dip behind the mountains, just feeling. And maybe that's the magic really. That somewhere inside all the noise and wildness, there's a kind of freedom that feels strangely human, like a little escape tucked into a digital world that knows how to mirror the quiet beauty of real life when you're not in a rush to leave.
Clean it up! We'll move on! Damn softy! You're gonna get us killed, you know that? Haha! It ain't me trying to shoot you,
You might have missed this one if you only focused on the survival part. But there's something strangely peaceful about walking through the overgrown ruins of old cities where nature has quietly taken back what was once hers. Like finding beauty in broken things, where vines wrap around forgotten walls and sunlight filters through shattered rooftops. Casting soft shadows on dusty floors, I really want to show you this one moment I had, just walking slowly, listening to the wind whistle through empty cars and distant bird song echo across the silence, and for a second it felt less like a world ending and more like one healing itself in quiet defiance. The way characters move through this space, carefully, like they're holding something fragile, matches how you start to feel as you explore. Noticing small details that somehow say more than words could, like a drawing on a fridge, a note left behind, or a guitar gently resting in a corner untouched. You might have expected tension, and it's there, but what caught me off guard was the stillness between the danger, those human pauses where someone lights a fire or tells a story or just sits and breathes. It all unfolds in a way that doesn't rush, letting every step feel personal, every look weighted. And every quiet moment stretched like time itself has slowed down just long enough for you to really feel something. And somehow, through all the shadows and silence, it becomes a reminder that even in the darkest places, there's a kind of light you only find when everything else is gone. Here's something different. A place where the night feels endless, the cold hangs heavy in the air, and yet somehow there's still a quiet kind of beauty in the way the snow drifts slowly through a broken city skyline. I remember gliding between rooftops in silence, letting the wind carry me over cracked streets and flickering neon signs, and for a moment, it didn't feel like I was chasing anything. Just moving through a world that felt alive in its sadness, like the city itself was holding its breath. What caught me off guard wasn't just the shadows or the tension, but the way everything felt so deliberate, like every corner had a story whispered into the bricks, every alley held a memory, and even the villains you met weren't just foes, but reflections of something deeper, something human. I really want to show you the way this world makes you slow down without asking, how the rhythm of it pulls you gently into its atmosphere, where every footstep echoes a little louder. Every quiet moment before a fight feels stretched out like the calm before a storm, and every detail from torn posters to scattered belongings tells you more about this place than words ever could. It's not just the cape or the combat or the chase. It's the way the city wraps around you like a story being told through silence, snowfall, and small, forgotten things that somehow stay with you long after the night ends. You might have missed this one, but there's something quietly unforgettable about drifting through the stars with nothing but soft ambient light around you, watching distant planets glow like lanterns in the dark, and hearing that gentle hum of your ship as it cuts through silence. I remember walking through the corridors alone, catching glimpses of crew members lost in thought, conversations lingering in the background, the kind that make you pause and just listen. Not because they're loud, but because they feel real, like each word was meant for you. What really stayed with me wasn't the missions or the weapons, but the stillness between moments, when you're standing at the window, staring into that cold black expanse, and you realize how fragile everything feels, and yet how much warmth there is in the connections you build, the trust you earn, and the quiet strength that forms when people carry pain, loss, and hope all in the same breath. I really want to show you how this journey doesn't rush. It lets you settle into it. Notice the small lights flickering on control panels, the low music playing from someone's quarters, the tension before a difficult decision, the relief after surviving something that should have broken you. Every place you visit feels like it's been waiting for you, not to conquer it, but to understand it, to listen, to care. And that simple feeling of moving slowly through the unknown, holding on to the people who choose to stand with you, might be one of the most peaceful and powerful experiences I've ever had in a story like this. You might have missed this one, but there's something deeply quiet and reflective about standing on the edge of a forgotten ruin as the sun filters softly through the trees and the wind carries just the faintest trace of an old story lost to time. It's in those slow, unspoken moments that you feel the weight of Nathan's journey. Not just as a treasure hunter chasing legends, but as someone searching for meaning in everything he's about to leave behind. I really want to show you how Uncharted 4 flows like a gentle memory, where every climb feels thoughtful, every puzzle like a small pause to breathe, and the conversations between brothers echo with years of silence and things left unsaid. What caught me off guard was how personal it all feels. The creak of old wooden floors in hidden mansions, the way the rain soaks into worn clothes during long walks through ghost towns, the smile in someone's voice when they remember who you used to be. Nothing here rushes, not even the action. It all blends into a soft rhythm, where the world feels hand-painted with care, and the emotions settle in slowly, like waves brushing against a shoreline you thought you'd forgotten. Here's something different, a story that doesn't try to be loud, but instead invites you to walk with it, to notice the cracks in ancient walls, the dust on old letters, the way a quiet promise carries more weight than gold, and somewhere along the way, without even realizing it, you stop chasing the end and start listening to the echoes of a life well lived, not perfect, not heroic, just real, in a way that stays with you long after the last scene fades. Here's something different. A story that unfolds not in grand speeches or cinematic moments, but in the quiet rhythm of repetition, in the small triumphs of persistence, and in the strange, lonely beauty of trying to escape a home you never chose. I want to show you Hades, not just because it's clever or fast or stylish, but because buried beneath the flames and fury is a quiet ache, the kind that lingers in dimly lit corridors and whispered conversations with gods who feel more like distant family than almighty beings. You might have missed how even the sharpest battles soften when wrapped in music that feels like a memory, how each return to the House of Hades, no matter how frustrating, starts to feel oddly comforting, like coming back to a place where everyone knows your name, even if they never say it kindly. What really caught me off guard wasn't the pace or the challenge, but the emotion woven into every small exchange. The tired sigh of a mentor who's given up, the shy hope of someone waiting by the lounge, the way Zagreus keeps moving forward not for glory, but to understand the people around him and maybe himself. There's a strange stillness between runs, like the world is holding its breath in those moments. Quiet. Reflective, unspoken, are where Hades becomes something more than a myth or a roguelike. It becomes a story you live in tiny pieces, one run at a time, where even failure feels like part of the journey, and each try leaves behind a thread you didn't see before, gentle, glowing, and deeply human. You might have missed this one, but there's something strangely beautiful about waking up in a ruined hotel room with no memory, no purpose, and a storm quietly humming in your head. Disco Elysium doesn't pull you in with action or spectacle, but with a feeling, like stepping into someone else's dream and slowly realizing it's your own. The streets of Revachol feel tired and faded, like they've been waiting years for someone to really notice them. And as you walk past cracked murals, broken statues, and the soft lapping of gray waves against the harbor, there's this constant quiet. Not empty, but thoughtful, like the city itself is whispering questions you're not quite ready to answer. I really want to show you this because it's rare to find something that lets you fail so gently, that lets you be fragile and strange and still worthy of empathy. Here, even the smallest choices feel like poetry, and the voices in your head aren't just noise, they're the parts of you trying to understand who you've been and who you might still become. It's not about solving a case or winning anything really. It's about sitting with regret, listening closely to forgotten people, and slowly piecing together meaning from a life that's unraveled quietly over years, like an old coat you only just realized was yours. And maybe the most unexpected part is how comforting it feels, to be broken in a world that's broken too, yet still full of moments that are strange, soft, and unexpectedly kind.
In dark times, should the stars also go out? Anyway, good night to you.
You might have missed this one, but there's a certain kind of stillness in the hills of Tiras, just after the rain, when the clouds break open and soft light pours over ruins that have been silent for centuries, and somewhere in the distance, a dragon's cry rolls over the mountains like a forgotten memory. Dragon Age. Inquisition quietly caught me off guard that way, not because of battles or grand choices, but because of the way it lets you slow down and notice things. The wind moving through the trees in the hinterlands, the way your companions shift their tone depending on where you walk, or how a single conversation beside a campfire can stay with you longer than any quest. I really want to show you this because it's not just about saving a world torn apart by magic and war. It's about learning how fragile people hold things together when nothing feels certain, how loyalty, doubt, faith, and fear all move side by side as you shape something called an Inquisition. But really, it feels more like a gathering of lost souls who've chosen to believe in each other. And what surprised me most was how personal it becomes. Your quiet moments with the people who travel with you. The choices you don't even realize matter until hours later, and that feeling of riding across open fields with nowhere to be except present in that moment, with a world that feels alive in all the ways that matter. Here's something different. A story that doesn't rush, but waits in silence, hidden beneath snow-dusted rooftops and crimson leaves gently falling from ancient trees. Sekiro. Shadows Die. Twice feels less like a challenge and more like a memory, wrapped in stillness and carried on the wind through old temples, mossy graveyards, and moonlit castles where time seems to hold its breath. What caught me off guard wasn't just the swordplay or how precise everything feels, but the quiet dignity in how the world speaks without words, through faint footsteps on wooden floors, distant flute music drifting over a broken bridge, or the simple act of standing still under cherry blossoms before a duel begins. I really want to show you this because it's one of those experiences where beauty and pain walk side by side, where every mistake teaches, every fight feels like a dance, and every victory, no matter how small, brings a quiet peace that lingers longer than you expect. And somehow, beneath the intensity, there's something deeply human. A kind of story told not through dialogue, but through posture, silence, and persistence. And when it all comes together, in those rare fleeting moments, it feels like you've stepped into a forgotten legend, one that doesn't need to explain itself. Because your hands already know what your heart is learning to understand. You might have missed this one, a story where every glance, every breath, and every quiet choice feels like it carries the weight of something bigger than just a mission, because Detroit, Become Human doesn't just tell a story, it gently asks you to feel it, not with grand explosions or loud speeches, but through the small, almost invisible moments. A hand hesitating before it touches glass, the flicker of uncertainty in someone's eyes, the way a city hums with quiet tension as lives cross in silence. I really want to show you this because the world here feels so close to ours it almost hurts, like watching a reflection that shifts as you move. And what caught me off guard wasn't the branching paths or clever mechanics, but how deeply I began to care. Not just about what happens, but why. The subtle cracks in someone's courage, the gentle rebellion of kindness in a cold system, the way trust grows slowly like a fragile plant, and somehow, through all the choices and consequences, there's this lingering feeling that your presence matters, not because you're the hero, but because you're listening and feeling and choosing not just with your hands, but with your heart. And in the quiet spaces between each decision, something beautiful starts to unfold like a question no one's asking out loud, but you can't stop thinking about. Thank you for spending these gentle moments with me today. I hope you enjoyed our quiet stroll through a few of the 28 perfect 10/10 single-player games you shouldn't miss, each one a little doorway to memories and stories that linger softly long after the screen fades. It's been a pleasure sharing these reflections with you, like chatting with an old friend over a slow evening. If you feel like leaving a thought or stopping by again when you're in the mood for another peaceful conversation, know that you're always welcome here. No rush, no pressure. Until next time, take care and be well.